This week we're going to be translating Luke 21, 25 to 36. We're going to break it up over the course of the week, and so today we're just going to be having a look at verses 25 and 26. I'll read the verse, and then we'll slowly work through it together, translating it a bit at a time. And then at the end, I will show you my basic English translation for these two verses. And we'll go about doing that every day this week until we've finished the entire passage. So the first verse, kai esontai semea en helio kai selene kai astrois, kai epitesges, sunoke ethnon en aporia ekus thalases kai salu. All right, so the first thing I do when I go to translate a verse is look for any verbs. And in this verse, I can only see one verb, and that's esontai. Now, esontai, it is the future indicative middle form of Amy, and it's the third person plural form. All right, so the basic meaning would be they will be. Because it's sort of at the start of the verse, the start of the sentence, I think this is more likely the preparatory use of Amy. And so I'm going to translate this as there will be. Now that we've done that verb, we can have a look at the rest of the sentence. Now, at the very start, we have kai, which is a stronger sort of conjunction. Most of our Greek sentences will start with a conjunction. Often it'll be de, and if it's de, it's more likely to be dropped out in our English translations because we just wouldn't start every sentence we write with a conjunction. But because it's kai, I'm going to go ahead and translate it with and. So, and there will be semea, signs plural. And then we have a prepositional phrase. And there are three objects in this prepositional phrase. We have helio and selene and astrois. All datives because of that preposition en, which of course means in. So in, and I'm going to insert the here for each one of these because Greek often will drop out the article in a prepositional phrase. So we can go ahead and insert it to make it better English. So, and there will be signs in the helio, sun, and the moon, and the stars. All right. And then we have another conjunction and another prepositional phrase. This time our prepositional phrase actually has the article tes here. So we have and upon the earth. What do we have upon the earth? Sunoke ethnon. So something of nations. Now, sunoke, I had to look up. And it sort of has the sense of distress or anxiety. Whenever you're not sure about a term, my suggestion would be that you go ahead and look it up in a lexicon. If you don't have your own good lexicon at home, you can use a free one online. If you're using a program such as Blue Letter Bible to help you with any parsing and translation, then you might use Thayer's Greek lexicon, which is in the public domain. So it's published on Blue Letter Bible's website. Or you might go to Bill Mounce's website. He has an online Greek dictionary, which is kind of like a Wikipedia for Greek words. It's pretty good. but it's probably not like at that scholarly sort of level you would expect if you were writing an assignment or doing something like that. So treat it as you would Wikipedia. It has a lot of information there that is useful, but as far as the credibility of the sources, it could be a mix of authors, okay, and not always credited to a specific scholarly writer. All right, so sunoke, I looked up. It sort of has that meaning of distress or anxiety. And the etymology of the term is from sun, which is together, and echo, so to hold together. So the distress of nations, and another prepositional phrase here, in aporia, in perplexity or confusion, aporia, in perplexity. And then we have a string of 3 words here that are in the genitive. Ekous delases kai selu. Now, ekous is another word I had to look up. I wasn't sure. It means noise. As a genitive, we could just simply put of here, because genitive, the sort of our key word for genitive is of. And you'll see that is what I do with the lases and selu. But here I think that the genitive is being used to indicate cause. So telling us why it is that the nations are in distress and perplexed. Okay? And so here I'm going to say from the noise of the sea. And selu. Now, selu might mean tossing. I've seen a few translations that take these 3 words and they translate it with something such as the roar and the fury of the sea. But selu really has more of that sense of tossing. And because of its relationship with the final word in verse 26, I'm actually going to use shaking instead, because I think it's nice to try to pick up on the relationships between different words in our sentences where it's possible. So I'm going to translate this as of shaking. And here, as I said, because the genitive can be quite ambiguous, I'm not really sure if it should be the sense of from the noise and the shaking of the sea, or if the shaking is independent. So I'm just going to leave it fairly ambiguous. But I think if you were to go through and look at a few commentaries, you might actually even see different interpretations for how to relate these words together. All right, now let's have a look at verse 26. Apo pusukonton, anthropon apo phobu kai prostokias, ton ep erkomenon, te oikumene, haigar, dunames ton uranon saluthesontai. All right, so again, new verse. Let's have a look for the verbs. I can see one proper verb, and that's saluthesontai, our final word. All right, and immediately I spot that face, and I'm seeing it's a future passive. So this is a future indicative passive, and it's also a third person plural. We can see that with the ontai ending. And it's from saluo, which means I shake. So as a future passive, they will be shaken. All right. Now, there are no other verbs, but we do have 2 verbal adjectives or participles. And one of them is our very first word in this sentence. Apopusukontai. Tone, sorry. And that is a present active participle. And it is a masculine genitive plural. And you can see here as well that what follows it is also a genitive plural. So what we've likely got here is a genitive absolute, right? Because it's present tense, we probably want to do something with it like as. So this is happening concurrently, but it's unrelated to the main verb and subject of the sentence. Okay. Now our subject for this participle is going to be people. So as people, and what is the verb? It's apo pasuko. All right. So you might notice here that we have pasuko. That's sort of related to pasuke. And apo has that as the compound, as our preposition attached to it has that sense of away from. So what we're looking at is something like away from life. It's actually their term for fainting. So as people are fainting is really the sense of this genitive absolute. As people are fainting. And then we have another prepositional phrase. As people are fainting, apophobu, from fear. And prostokias, which is the expectation. So dokia had seeming or thinking word with pros, towards. So from fear and from the fear and the expectation of, we can see that that's genitive, so we're looking at an of here. And we actually have another participle, eperkomenon, known, which is another genitive, but here it's not a genitive absolute. It's genitive because of its function within the sentence. But we're looking at a present middle deponent participle, masculine genitive plural, of erkamai, right? Which is coming upon, right? So from the fear and expectation of the things coming upon, so it's actually probably more likely a neuter. They're the same form after all. So of the things coming upon. And then te oikumene, of the things coming upon the inhabited world. Why is this dative? Probably because of this little compound that's attached to our participle here, ep. So ep takes the dative. So that's likely the reason why te okumene is in dative. So that's the things coming upon the inhabited world. And then we have high, which is a definite article, and then high dunamis with a gar in between. So gar is a post-positive, so it cannot be the first word in a phrase or a sentence. So what I'll do is I'll just put for the powers, right? So that takes care of that high there. The powers of the heavens. Okay? And that's obviously the subject of this verb here, will be shaken. So it's the powers of the heavens that will be shaken because the passive, with passive voice, it acts upon the subject. So that's our 2 verses. Now let me just go ahead and show you my translation in English. Verse 25, and there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth the distress of nations in perplexity, from the noise of the sea and the shaking, as people are fainting from fear and the expectation of the things coming upon the inhabited world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. All right. See you tomorrow.